Welcome to Season 2 of Red Sox Digest, the only show where pain, sarcasm, and false hope collide nightly, like a Masataka Yoshida ground out to second. We break down every loss, every meltdown, and the occasional win, with sarcasm, facts, and no front office spin. Subscribe today at RedSoxDigest.com, or keep wondering how a wildcard team spent an entire offseason avoiding power hitters. And now, here's the crew at Red Sox Digest.
Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Red Sox Digest. I am your host tonight, Jim Delfino. And folks, I'm fired up. I haven't been this excited for a Red Sox season since I convinced myself Pablo Sandoval was just getting loose in 2015. Yeah, I made some bad decisions before, hosting this show included. I mean, seriously, I'm sitting here talking about roster construction like I'm not the same guy who panic refreshes Twitter every time someone pulls a hamstring in Fort Myers. I run a whole show, and emotionally, I'm still a 12-year-old yelling at the TV like the bullpen can hear me. Unreal. Joining me tonight is Nick Face, a man who treats every Red Sox loss like it's a federal crime investigation. This guy watches one spring training strikeout, and suddenly he's filing a 14-tweet thread about how the hitting coach should be arrested. Nick already has 6 arguments lined up for opening day, and the game hasn't even started yet. He's ready to fight a guy in Section 12 because someone said the Yankees might be better. Might be? Nick's blood pressure just spiked hearing that. Joining us as well is John Martinello, who somehow watches baseball like he's already seen the script. John will tell you in April that what's going to happen in September. And the worst part is he's usually right. It's like having a time traveler on the show, except instead of warning us about disasters, he just calmly explains why the Red Sox bullpen will emotionally ruin us by mid-June. Thanks, John. Appreciate the optimism. And of course, Thayer Doyle is here, the only guy who watches baseball like he's grading homework. Thayer doesn't get mad. He gets disappointed. Well, that cutoff throw was fundamentally irresponsible. Yeah, because nothing fires up a fan base like hearing their team described like a failing group project. He's over here sipping a Guinness, breaking down footwork like he's teaching baseball 101 at Harvard. All right, let's get into it. This is your 2026 Boston Red Sox season preview, and honestly, this roster feels like someone hit randomize on MLB The Show and just rolled with it. You've got young talent that makes you believe again. You've got veterans that make you nervous. And you've got about 3 guys where you'd like to say, wait, he made the roster? This team could win 90 games. Or it could finish 500 and leave us all questioning our life choices by August. The lineup could be sneaky good. Like, don't get too closely, but wow, there's potential good. If everything clicks, this offense can mash. If it doesn't, we're back to scoring 2 runs and pretending that's small ball. The rotation, that's where things get spicy. You've got upside, you've got question marks, and you've got that one guy every fan base convinces themselves is about to break out until he doesn't. Cue Brian Bale. If this rotation holds up, we're dangerous. If not, buckle up for 9-7 games every night. And the bullpen, oh boy, the bullpen. You ever go into a season telling yourself this year will be different? This is yet another example because it could be one of the best bullpens in the game, but it could also be flat. And that's where we're at. Again. But here's the thing. This team is interesting. And in Boston, interesting can be dangerous. Because the second they give you hope, you're all in. So tonight, we're breaking it all down. What works, what doesn't, and what could blow up in our faces by May, and what could actually make this team legit contenders. We've got takes. We've got arguments. We've got Nick ready to fight someone before the first pitch of the season. And with that, it's time for us to face the facts.
It's time for Face the Facts, where excuses get laughed out of the room, your feelings are irrelevant, and your opinion probably doesn't matter. No spin, no cope, just the facts. And now, your esteemed host, Nick Face.
$1 for you, Thayer. There's $1 for you, John. And that $1 for you, Jim. Nah, you don't get it because you don't have a hat on. But anyways, I had to start off with a little bit of fun there. If anybody wants some more ones, I'll be going to the local strip club down the street. I'm only teasing, folks. But we want to get ourselves ready for the 2026 baseball season. And much like you said, Jim, at the start, we really don't know where this team is going to be at come the night prior. This is like the night before Christmas here. And I don't really have excitement. I don't have nerves. I don't really have a feeling in me outside of blah. I feel blah right now. I don't want to feel blah because there's so many question marks going into this season that still bother the Evan Levin bejesus out of me. So let's go with the first thing. You have 6 outfielders, guys. We've had this continued problem for years, and it's still not identified. Do any of you have any idea what the lineup's going to be even tomorrow? I mean, is Roman Anthony our left fielder? I don't know. Is Cedane Rafaela going to be in center field most nights? I don't think we can tell you with a straight face. Yes, we don't know that. Wilyer Abreu, is he going to play every day? Or is he going to be sat while a lefty pitches or platooned or rotated? What's the Yoshida saga today? Is he on the roster? Looks it. Is he going to play? I don't know. Duran, guys, he's still here. Are you excited for that? I'm thrilled. Your number 3 hitter, apparently, for your Boston Red Sox. How's that sit? Is it nice for you all? Can't wait for that strikeout to start the season off. The reason I'm going about this right here is that there's a thing where having a lot of things is good, like pitching depth. It's great. It's great to have those arms. But when you have 6 outfielders vying for 3 or 4 spots with a rotated DH spot, that's a problem for me. And let's say somebody gets hot. Let's say Wilyer Abreu, like he did last season, comes out swinging and has to be in the lineup all the time. Well, what if Roman Anthony and, say, Duran are also swinging the bat well? Who's the odd man out? How can you get consistency and a general flow going with that pattern? To me, it screams to be set up as failure. And that's a failure organizationally because this is what you have going into your season. So that's the outfield piece. Your infield piece. Well, outside of Trevor Story, everybody's new for like what, the 5th season in a row? It's disgusting. You have no Bregman. We have Durbin now as our third baseman. I'm kind of interested, I have to say, on what that's going to look like. I am. I think there's some upside there. I want to go into this positive. Going into the season at this point last year, when we said Trevor Story was our shortstop, we were going into this saying, is he going to get hurt? Is he going to play a full season? What's going to happen? Well, to me, I think we're going to see a regression here for Trevor Story this season. I just do. Will we see him maybe move to second base? Will Marcelo Meyer, who's going to be your starting second baseman, at least against right-handed pitching, will be there on your team? Will he slide over to shortstop and take the reins? Again, if he stays healthy. That's the biggest question there. So those are your big questions you have on that part. You got Wilson Contreras as your new first baseman. How will he adjust to now being in the American League in a whole new division and a whole new atmosphere? There's some upside there. I think we could count on about an average of about 20 home runs, give or take 60, 70 RBIs. I'm cool with that over injury-prone boy who should be a witness protection program, Tristan Casas, who is not on the roster to start opening day, thank God, and get that ugly bug out of the way. The other question mark, and I'm just going to go over the infield, and we're not going to go into the pitching side because I want to make sure John and Thayer and have their equal time. But my other big concern here going into this season is catcher. I have to say it. I don't have faith in Carlos Nevarez as my everyday catcher right now. I don't like what I saw as the season progressed with him, with breaking down and carrying on a workload that was too much for him. I give him all the credit in the world for coming into a situation where he was your backup. Connor Wong was your starter last season and then took the reins and then played hurt. I completely get that. I accept that. That was great. I appreciate that. But the thing that bothers me here is that I still don't think that he's the guy. I think he's just in that spot because of the situation. And then Connor Wong is still doing Connor Wong things, if that makes you feel any better about the situation. So we'll talk about more, I'm sure, as we go on in this show. And I have an interesting theory on the catcher position as well, too. We'll talk about it, but I want to make sure the other guys get equal attention. So those are my bullet points to start the season.
Yeah, excellent stuff there from Nick. Face the Facts is brought to you by the opening day overreaction hotline, because why wait 3 games into when you can declare the season over after the first at bat? Featuring real-time panic alerts every time a Red Sox starter gives up a double in April. Call now and scream, "We need a trade," before the second inning. And now we're going to take it to the Martinello Minute.
And now the part they don't want said out loud. No spreadsheets or corporate spin, just the truth, raw and impatient. This is the Martinello Minute.
Well, Nick, I don't know if you were paying attention to spring training the other day, but Connor Wong had 2 hits, and one of them was a double. So I don't know if we have any question marks about this catching position anymore. But, fellas, we made it. 144 days ago, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa was called out at home, and now we're paying him $6 million. Craig Breslow made 3,000 trades, 2,990 of them with Chaim Bloom. Swing and a miss on Alex Bregman, turned into Ranger Suárez. Sonny Gray, Caleb Durbin, Wilson Contreras, all made their way to Boston. The power bet that we were promised, still waiting on that, but we forgot about the power bets that we have at home. The Red Sox own the World Baseball Classic. They hit 65 home runs and broke Aaron Judge's self-proclaimed single-season record. And unlike Aaron Judge, Roman Anthony showed up in the clutch moments. He hit 2 game-deciding home runs in the tournament, and he earns All-World Baseball Classic team honors. Connelly Early had an impressive spring camp, and he forced his way into the starting rotation to start the season, and he's starting Game 3 on Sunday in the series finale. Now, tomorrow's opening day, Garrett Crochet's getting the ball. He's starting for the second season in a row, and I'm going to put a guarantee on it right now. He's going to win Cy Young this year.
Ooh, okay.
Wow. That's some heavy hitting right there. Martinello Minute is sponsored by the Opening Day Program Book. You buy it, flip it through once, realize half the roster is already outdated, and then it just sits there in your seat while the game moves on without it. Completely confident, immediately irrelevant, and somehow still $20. Moving on, we're going to go to the third strike.
And now it's time for the third strike with Thayer.
All right, I can't believe I'm going to take this stance, but I am positive and I am looking forward to this season. Nick, I understand all of your concerns. I see them. I've heard them, especially the pieces about the front office. I've been talking about that all last year. What I want to focus on this year is pitching and defense wins championships. And I'm hoping that whatever moves they've made, and yes, they didn't get us that power bat, and the lineup is still left-handed centric. But if you look at the starting rotation, I think they are, at least right now, especially with the injuries that are sort of going on in New York and in Toronto, they're probably the best rotation in the American League. And that, we'll all say, oh, if they're healthy, but that's the same thing with everyone. The injury bug, we're not even going to talk about that. From a starting rotation standpoint, I think we have the best. Also with the bullpen, do I think that Chapman and Whitlock are going to be as dominant as they were last year? No, I don't. I don't think that's possible to do that back-to-back. If they're consistent, they'll be fine. And I also think this gives us opportunities for guys like Slayton to step up and maybe sort of even that bullpen out where the other guys aren't quite as dominant, but at least now we have a third guy that maybe we can turn this into a 6-inning game. And with the starters that we have, I think we have an opportunity to win 88, 89, 90 games, make it into the playoffs. And with this rotation, there's no telling when you go Crochet and Suárez, bona fide pitchers that have shown the opportunity to pitch well in the playoffs. I will give them every opportunity to do what they do. And we saw it last year with the Yankees. If you're not hitting home runs, you don't win. This team isn't going to hit home runs, but if they catch the ball and run the bases well, I think they have an opportunity.
Great stuff. Third Strike by Thayer is brought to you by the opening day brand new baseball. Perfectly clean, full of hope, and about 12 seconds away from getting absolutely launched into the left field seats. Pristine for a moment, then immediately ruined, just like your expectations. All right, I want to start off with some talking points. The first thing I want to talk about, and Thayer just kind of alluded to that, is the arms race, okay? For the first time in years, the conversation in Boston isn't about who might pitch, but how dominant this rotation could be. Obviously, we finally have the ace we've wanted since Chris Sale. Garrett Crochet is coming off a massive 2025, enters 2026 as John's choice for Cy Young Award. We have reinforcements. The front office went unsentimental this offseason, signing Ranger Suárez, who looked really good in his last outing, by the way, for $150 million, and trading for veteran Sonny Gray. That Nick loves as well as anyone. The debate here is with Brian Bayo and Johan Oviedo rounding out the five. Of course, now Connelly Early in the mix. My question, I'll start with you, Thayer. Is this the deepest, since you already commented on it, is this the deepest Red Sox rotation since 2018?
Yes. I think we have up and down, especially with Early available. You're looking at 5 to 6 starting pitchers who can be above 500. And especially with the defense that they have, we were concerned. We talked about this in the offseason that they have with Suárez and Crochet and Gray, a number of ground ball pitchers, and even the way that Bayo pitches, they've improved the defense, say what you want about them, with Mayer at second base and with Story up the middle, defensively in that infield, they are going to be exceptional, I think. And Contreras is going to do a nice job at first base. So I think they're in a good place. And ironically, and this is probably going to sound foolish, but my hot take is I think really Oviedo is going to be the key to this season. If he is a starting pitcher, we're going to be in excellent shape because Early and Tolley can sit in Worcester and just get themselves developed for next year, or at least to help down the stretch. And right now, if they're going to have him in the bullpen, if he can be a dominant bullpen piece, that's going to be important. If he's a flop, then we're in trouble because Early's simply going to come up to replace him. When Early's on this team, he needs to be someone who is also an addition and not a replacement. So I think that's where Oviedo is going to be the most important aspect to this starting rotation and to the pitching staff in general.
Yeah, some good points there. One of the things that I think, and John, I'll go with you next, but one of the things that I'm interested in with Connelly Early, I think we're all big fans of this kid. Obviously, he has the poise. I just worry about the Red Sox playing the numbers here. We obviously know that Suárez and Bayo are behind because of the WBC, and it's something that I can't stand. I've been adamant about this on Twitter. I hate the WBC. But in any event, I think this could be just a cup of coffee for Early until Suárez and maybe Bayo come back. Because the thing about it is he's got options, and he hasn't triggered enough service time on the Major League roster in 2025. So they can still finagle these numbers, throw him back in the minors. They could even bring Tolley back up if they need to, but just play their cards right to be able to acquire that extra year. Now, that would be bullshit, I'll be honest with you. But at the same time, this could turn out like Eduardo Rodriguez. If you guys remember, Eduardo Rodriguez was brought up, and it was a similar situation. I think it was injury, and he pitched really, really well that they just couldn't bring him back down. So I think that's something to look for, early in this season, how well or how poorly Early pitches. And if he pitches poorly, it'll be a simple move to bring him back down to the minors. But if he pitches very well, it's going to be hard pressed to take him out of that rotation. John, go with you.
Yeah, I mean, this rotation is 100% best we've had since 2018. And I mean, 19 was about the same rotation as 18, but obviously those guys performed a tick down from 18. I'm really, you guys pointed towards it. Connelly Early is a guy that, how I evaluate him, I don't think that he's putting on a Worcester jersey again in his life unless he's coming back from an injury. This guy, top to bottom, I mean, he had a phenomenal camp. And that's really what got him to this point where he is now, starting on Sunday. He's going to be a stud. I think he's going to be in the Rookie of the Year conversation. And going back to Oviedo, I think that, with him, he's, as Thayer said, he's going to be just as important as anybody else in this rotation. He's a guy that's going to fill in the 4 or 5 spot once gets back to that position. And in his case, if he could pitch to a 4 ERA, and that's your number 5 or number 6 pitcher, if they go that route with early dealing, there's not a single team, maybe even in the league, that's going to be able to compete with this Red Sox rotation throughout a 162 game season. And in the playoff scenario, I don't see any team that's going to be able to, pitching wise, match up with the Red Sox.
Great points. Nick, the floor is yours.
John, I'm going to go exactly with you on this with Connelly Early. I have to tell you, if the Red Sox didn't want him up, they would have sent him down like they did Peyton Tolley, because they believe in this kid so much. Let's go back to the wild card round that we were in for the playoffs. I mean, you had a choice, I guess, in a way, on who was going to pitch, and they chose Connelly Early. And I strongly feel that he held his own. I don't believe that start was anywhere near his fault on the Red Sox losing on that game 3. No way. You can't blame him on that. I mean, he took the leap over Lucas Giolito big time, and that's one of the reasons why Giolito's not here, is because Connelly Early, and you can even say Peyton Tolley, that last month in September, hit and checked every single box off that they were looking for on this team. Yes, when it comes to development, Jim, I completely agree with you. The Red Sox have not developed players very well over the past 10 years, if you want to be kind about it. And I just don't feel like Connelly Early fits into that whole problems with development. I think this kid has it up here. And that's something that this organization has lacked. A guy with smarts, the tools, the weapons to be successful here in Boston. Let's remember, too, West Point grad. This guy knows what's up. He knows responsibility. He knows determination. He knows what he's got to do. I think those qualities right there jump out to me and scream winner. And as I've talked about for a long time here on this pod, I am looking for winners. I want guys that fit the description of playing here in Boston, that understand what the pressure is like, that have the baseball IQ and savvy to carry themselves out as a Red Sox player and do the little things right. Connelly Early's that guy. And I think the quicker we realize this, the better it's going to be with understanding that I think this kid's very, very special. Very special. I don't love these comps sometimes that I do. I see a little bit of John Lester in Connelly Early. I have to tell you. I see a competitor. I see a bulldog. I see a guy that wants that ball and wants to compete. And as John said, heck of a spring training. He took everything that they were looking for, and now Oviedo is bullpen bound for right now to build up a little bit. And Brian Bayo and Ranger Suárez are kind of carrying the bags in the back, trying to figure out what they're going to do. You know what's interesting about this rotation too, guys, is that let's say Connelly Early develops enough to become, heck, the number 2 guy and take over what Sonny Gray was supposed to be, the number 2. Say Sonny Gray drops down to the number 3 in theory, and then Ranger Suárez is your number 4. Your number 5 guy could be a Brian Bayo. Holy goodness right there. And I didn't even mention Oviedo, who I also agree with you, Thayer. I think he could be a secret weapon for this team in whatever role he's going to be. If he's in the bullpen, get out there and get the outs that are in crucial spots and do everything that you're looking for. Could Oviedo be that guy? That's that 6'7" guy, that swing man. Maybe. I don't really want him as my long guy. I want him in a role that I think he can really solidify this team and make them great. So, yeah, you're seeing a little passion from me. You're seeing a little bit of, wow, could this team actually do something this year? I'm excited about the rotation. I'm excited for the rotation, guys, and I'm not faking it. I'm not. I'm being real. I'm being authentic. This is the most depth we've had since 2018, 100%, when you had Chris Sale and David Price and Nate Eovaldi, all those guys that were mapped out there. Eddie Rodriguez, who was there too. So depth-wise, we're in a tremendous spot that other teams, I think, would wish they had this luxury.
Yeah, there's no question that the rotation is one of the strong spots, and that's obviously the way that Breslow decided to construct this team, after losing out, if you want to call it losing out, on some of these free agents because of the lack of wanting to spend the money or the years or however you want to dice it up. But, they went into full, run prevention mode as it relates to, pitching and defense. If they brought it up, today, even if Marcelo Mayer is a bust with the bat, he's gonna be smooth with the glove, and we're gonna prevent runs. We're gonna prevent giving up extra outs. Giving up 4 outs or 5 outs in an inning because of stupid booted plays or throws that different first basemen over the course of the last few years haven't been able to get. It's gonna be an interesting thing. I have some thoughts on that infield, but, just getting back to the rotation, if Early can take the step and be your number 3 and you got a guy like Bayo as your number 5, it's a nice place to be. And, obviously, God forbid there's any injuries, we got some guys that can step up, hopefully, like Oviedo back in or Tolley or whatever the case might be. So it's definitely a strength. Moving right along to our next topic is about Roman Anthony. So the Roman Anthony era, is it going to be hype versus reality? The talk of the baseball world is officially here. Roman Anthony isn't just making the roster. Obviously, he signed his long-term deal. The impact, analysts I've read are calling for a Fred Lynn-esque rookie impact. Can a 21-year-old really carry the middle of a lineup, even though he's going to lead off, that lost some of the power, especially in Devers and Bregman? If Anthony struggles in April, does the offense have a plan B, or is the season's ceiling tied entirely to his bat? In other words, are we, as the Red Sox go, let me put it this way, as Anthony goes, do the Red Sox go? Nick, your thoughts?
If you want pressure and if you want to figure out where this team's going to go, pitching aside in defense, I think we can all say, all 4 of us, that we're very happy and pleased with that. You got to hit the ball. And I'm sorry, I haven't yet seen enough to say Roman Anthony will be the AL MVP this season. I want to believe that, and I think that he has every chance to do that. But this is a guy that also got hurt last season. And we need to see, number 1, durability to see what he can do. And we need to see what a full season looks like here before we call him Mike Trout 2.0. I'd love to do that. And I think he has every ounce and chance to do this. But the problem here is that I think we don't even know lineup-wise where he configures. I think Cora's going to put him at leadoff, but I don't like him at leadoff. I've been not for him leading off. I think we need to see him in a, I'd say the 3 spot at least. I just don't think he's a leadoff guy. I would even put him a little bit lower, but the Red Sox don't have that luxury because we have so many question marks with this lineup. We just don't know who's leading off. We don't have a truly second a two-hitter. We don't have a true three-hitter, at least yet. But we also have evidence from last season. When Roman Anthony went down, the Red Sox crumbled like a cookie. I'll use Mayor Menino, God rest his soul's comparison. When the cookie crumbles, and the Red Sox cookie crumbled into a million pieces after Roman Anthony went down. Not the same team. So yes, I do think that this team will thrive with Roman Anthony if he gets going and gets himself established and everything there. But he also has to have that protection too. And that worries me big time. It really does, because there really isn't that much, at least on paper, protection-wise, for Roman Anthony. Will the pressure get to him? I think that's the biggest question we have to ask ourselves right now. Can Roman Anthony handle all this hype and pressure? I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know. I hope he can.
Well, he seems like a kid that seems to be pretty well advanced for a 21-year-old.
Can I make one more statement too before we go to the next one? Bold take. I think Connelly Early can handle the pressure better than Roman Anthony.
Yeah, it's interesting. Look, here's the thing about Roman. I think in a perfect world, I would not want him as my leadoff hitter. Thayer and I grew up in an era where your best hitters were batting third and fourth. Then that kind of changed to the number 2 slot. Now you're seeing it in the 1 and 2 slots because these guys want to get the most at bats and so forth. But I think when you really start looking at this lineup and the holes that this lineup really does have, in my opinion, I think they're stuck with Roman Anthony being the number, the number 1 hitter. And for this reason alone, if you're going to have Marcelo Mayer bat 8th, then you're going to have Rafaela bat 9th. This is hypothetical. If you're an opposing manager, this is a very good opportunity for you to bring in a left-hander, to neutralize maybe the 7th, 8th. And Rafaela is not good against lefties, surprisingly enough. So, you could neutralize that. If you have Anthony batting leadoff, it might change that dynamic because you're going to turn that lineup over again, and he's going to be there. So I'm not so sure that Roman Anthony's the guy that needs the protection. He's going to have to be the guy that can do everything. And that is a lot of pressure, like you said, Nick. But the bottom line is that I've said it before on our show. He needs to be vintage Mike Trout, 2018 JD Martinez. Can he do it? I don't know. I think he's got
number 2. Our winning seasons are 2013s, our 2018s, 2004, 2007. The common denominator to all of those things is you had a Manny Ortiz, or you had a JD Martinez and a Xander Bogaerts, or you had Mike Napoli, David Ortiz, Dustin Pedroia. You had that. You can't even say anything right now for this team because it's all a question mark on the lineup base. So that's where my comment was coming from, a protection standpoint. They all had their protection to help each other out as a team. Right now, there's an eye in a team, and it's Roman Anthony for the lineup, at least.
Thayer, I'm going to go to you on the Roman Anthony situation, hype versus reality.
I think it's a little bit of both, but ultimately I think it's a reality. I'm not going to say he's going to be Fred Lynn. That is an incredibly unfair prediction and sort of to put him in there. But just watching what he did at the World Baseball Classic, as you're talking about it, there were left-handed hitters that DeRosa didn't play against left-handed pitchers, yet there was Anthony every day in the lineup. And I think he proved on that level that he's capable of it. I think he showed that he was able to deal with a lot of the pressures. Granted, he was hitting 7th in the lineup, where you would hope that someone that young sort of sits in. That would be the ideal thing. But, like Nick says, this is not the 2004, 2008 Red Sox. This is a situation where he's going to have the pressure's put on him. I think he's capable of doing that. I think the World Baseball Classic was good for him simply because he was actually around professionals who hopefully he learned from how to handle himself, how to become a professional. Granted, it was a short amount of time, but I think he's going to be capable of it. And I think it's probably going to be more reality than hype. He'll have his down spells because all kids do, but I think he'll be capable, and his approach is mature enough that he will get out of those slumps much quicker than most of his sort of contemporaries.
John, your take on the Anthony question?
Yeah, I mean, the comparisons that a lot of people have drawn towards him. Obviously, you hear a lot of great names like, we've heard Fredlin, we've heard Christian Yelich, but for me at least, I don't like any of the comps just because I think Roman Anthony is his own person. This is a kid that forced his way. I don't want to say forced his way because he should have been on the opening day roster last year, but when he got called up to the big leagues, he had 2 games of being in the back burner, and then the Red Sox trade Rafael Devers and what's his name? Third baseman.
Alex Bregman.
Bregman gets hurt.
Bregman, of course. How could I forget? He goes down, and immediately he becomes the face of the team from an offensive standpoint. And, it took him 50 or so at bats, but then from, I think it was whatever the game was, doesn't really matter, but he 50 or so at bats. And then the guy hit 330 for the rest of the season until he got the oblique injury. He had a higher OPS against lefties than he did against righties, which was a 903 OPS against lefties last year. So he's capable of handling either side of the pitcher from either side of the rubber. He showed us in the World Baseball Classic and high pressure moments that he could handle the situation. And a number 1 overall prospect that through 71 games has lived up to the hype. He's not a showboat. He doesn't have an ego. He keeps his head down. He does what he has to do, and he's professional about everything that he's done so far in his career. So, and I showed it when Jim, when you were opening up this segment on him, I threw up all the Roman Anthony rookie cards that I have. I think that this guy's going to be a stud for a very long time in this league, and I think that there's, I don't think that there's anything at all to be worried about with him and handling a full season, handling the Boston media, handling any of the top pitchers in the league. I think that this kid's gonna show everybody why he's gonna probably end up being top 10 on the MVP list at the end of the year.
Well, I mean, I think it's safe to say every Red Sox fan that, has, the passion that we do, he's the one guy, on the entire team that you want to stop and watch his at bats. I mean, we used to have guys like that with Ortiz and Manny and Mo Vaughn and JD Martinez, and you wouldn't get a snack because so and so was going to be up. He's got that kind of ilk, and I think that's something that this team hasn't had in quite some time, even with Devers. But regardless of that, moving right along. Next topic: speed is the new power. The projections are jarring. Some systems suggest no Red Sox hitter will hit 20 home runs this year. Instead, the team is leaning into chaos and a base pass. The transformation, Marcelo Mayer reportedly bulked up, but he actually got faster. And they said that there were some spring training drills that he was sprinting better than Duran. The strategy, with Duran, Ceddanne Rafaela, and a new-look Mayer, the Sox are built to win these 3-2 games. Will small ball work in a division that's as brutal as the AL East? John, I'll start with you.
Yeah. I mean, we all wanted power. We didn't get it. We got defense. We got pitching. And I think that, as this season goes along, we're probably going to have 5 or 6 guys crack at least 17 stolen bases. And I think a couple of guys could crack 25 to 30. So they're, they strayed away from the power aspect and diving into just hectic base running. We'll see if that pays off, but Just the direction of the team, or the face of what this team's going to be, there's no power included. And I think that we're still going to have a decent amount of power. I think that there's a couple guys that could get close to the 30 home run territory, but I think this team's going to thrive on stealing bases, turning singles into doubles, doubles into triples, scoring from first on balls in the gap that typically you wouldn't. And, this is the identity of the team, and it's what they're going to have to do if they're going to be in the playoffs.
Thayer, your take.
The speed be damned. It's going to come down to their offensive approach. They have to take a contact approach. We talk about, guys aren't going to hit 20 home runs. They may not, but if they're all trying to, we're going to have a lot of trouble. If they come up with the idea of, like John was saying, you get a guy on base and you work the gaps and you put balls in play and you create sort of havoc, but you're creating controlled havoc and controlled chaos. You're not just running to run. You're running at the opportune time. You're taking advantage of situations. You're pressing the envelope where it needs to be and not just being kind of reckless. Then they're going to be in excellent shape. But again, it comes down to, Nick's buddy, the hitting coach. What are we teaching? Are we teaching launch angle and go for the downs? Or are we talking, cut your swing down, make some contact, and let's stop striking out as much as we do? If they can do that, then they will, without a doubt, be a contender in the American League.
Nick, your take.
I was getting really itchy on this subject. You knew it. Gentlemen, since 2019, Pete Fatsi has been the hitting coach or been assistant hitting coach or some sort of thing in this Red Sox system. Can I get in writing that the Red Sox will be changing their approach this season for gap hitting and contact? Because if that's the case, sign me up, because I agree with this take. Speed would win. The problem here is we think we're muscle man mania here. Launching the ball out of the park has been their MO since Pete Fatsi's been here and been employed, and he's still employed. The thing that we were screaming about all offseason was to improve contact hitting, situational hitting. Move the ball to or hit the ball and get on base. Move the runner to the next base. And this team has failed to do that since 2018. They have. I can give them a little bit of credit for 2021 because they at least got to the playoffs and we can say it was semi-successful. But the problem here is that I need to see it to believe it. If Jarren Duran is changing his approach by going opposite field and dropping the ball down the left field side to get on base and become a singles, doubles hitter, gap hitter, great, because that's exactly what we want. So that would improve that category right there for speed. Well, Trevor Story cut down on his long swing and finally, for the love of God, hit the ball into the gap and stop thinking that he's Mr. 35-40 home run dude. Willie Abreu, is he still going to swing out of his ass constantly, or are we going to see an adjustment at the plate where the guy's going to be locked in to not strike out 20,000 times, make contact, but also get your power when needed? I think the one player that we got this offseason that you can say with a straight face that will give you contact and will get on base is Durbin. I think that right there will improve at least a little bit, depending upon where he's slotted in the lineup, to be getting on base and making contact. But Bo Bichette was the big guy that we all wanted. That was the one that we thought that was going to help us to get to this point where we could successfully get on base, steal some more bags, move the ball around, and become a better team. I'd love to see this become the new speed demon, because if you get Duran and Story and Rafaela and all these guys on base running, you're going to win ball games. But you have to get the bat on the ball, and they don't do that. They just don't, and it drives me up a creek.
Well, I think it's something that they need to just do this season. I mean, Durbin seems like he's a good contact guy, and they've got to get more contact out of guys like Rafaela. They got to cut down on their strikeouts. They have to, and they don't have the ability to just have that launch angle and make hit home runs on every pitch. So It'll be interesting to see. I like contact ball. I do. I mean, I like homers. Who doesn't? But I like contact ball. I like seeing the lineup flipped over. But we'll see. Moving along on the infield health gamble. The Red Sox are banking heavily on two players with injury-prone labels, obviously Trevor Story and Marcelo Mayer. After years of wrist and shoulder injuries stalling his rise, Marcelo Mayer is finally the opening day starter, as it was announced late in spring training. Mayer looks physically stronger than ever. If he's the true 2021 draft version of himself, the Red Sox infield obviously could be elite. We want to keep an eye on his range, obviously, if he's going to play in Cincinnati with some left-handers and so forth. But this is a full experience of Mayer over 162 will be very interesting if he can, play an entire season. Couple things to chew on with that comment. The Red Sox will have Marcelo Mayer as their opening day, quote, call it, second baseman. He will represent the 8th opening day second baseman for 8 consecutive years since Nunez. 8. He's the 8th one. That's absolutely insane to think that we've had 8 different guys start second base for this team. Add to that the fact that this Boston Red Sox team with Wilson Contreras at first base, how many games is he going to play at first? The Boston Red Sox have not had a first baseman play more than 100 games in a season since 2011, Adrian Gonzalez. That's startling. 15 years that no first baseman has played 100 games plus. And the last part that I'm going to bring up, and then Nick will go with you. If Trevor Story had opted out, you would have a complete brand new infield for 2026. These are startling things to think about. Potentially a brand new infield. You got 3 new starters in your rotation. Kind of not what you think of when you decide that you want to take the next step and be a championship caliber team. A lot of changeover. I still think there's a lot of questions. Nick, I'll start with you.
But it fits the MO of exactly what Alex Cora wants. He wants versatility. He wants players that, let's take a day. Oh, if you're banged up, you're not going to play. He wants guys that are basically playing 100 games a season. So that's the reason also some of these numbers are so down is because of Cora. And you can even say it's from front office and your stat nerds. Oh, we got to make sure everybody stays healthy for our postseason. It's coming. I'm sick of it. Give me Iron Men. Give me Cal Ripkins. I was stunned last season. Trevor Story and even Jarren Duran were 2 of our players that actually had as many games played as possible. We were in the 150-ish range for them, correct?
Yeah. Rafaela
did
too.
Duran
He did
62?
I think Duran did.
No, he sat one or something like that. But yeah, it's stunning if any guys up there are playing that many games under Cora. And I don't know if this is coming from front office or I think it is coming from Cora. Oh, well, he would go out and say after the end of spring training was done, he said, oh, well, we have 6 outfield. Everyone's going to play. Everybody get ready. If I was one of the outfielders on the Red Sox and I was one of those guys on the bubble, say I was, a Duran or a Rafaela or a Abreu, I'm saying to myself, am I even going to play? Like, what is this guy doing? That's just kind of what my thought process would go into something like that. But it's a style that I can't stand this team doing right now. It is. And that's why we have a revolving door. It's like a merry-go-round. Oh, who's our third baseman today? Oops. Is Trevor Story healthy? He's got to play short. The Russian roulette wheel from second base over the past, 8 seasons. Who's our second baseman today? It's one of those cases. And then first base again. That is just a stunner for me. And remember, Mike Napoli was probably DHing a little bit into those years where he was rotating between first and DH. So I'd be interested to see what those numbers were between the two. But yeah, ever since really Napoli's not been with the team, we have not had a lot of consistency. We've had your Mitch Morelands, We've had obviously Tristan Casas when he was around. Brock Holt would play first base on occasion. I mean, that's what we've had. I'm just grateful that we don't have to go into the season with what's his name, Abraham Toro as our first base. Abe Toro. Ooh.
Abe Toro, the third baseman.
Yeah, Abe Toro, the shortstop, knowing Cora at some point. But yeah, I just want consistency. Long story short, it would be lovely to have consistency, and that's just not what we've had. It's 2018.
Thayer, your take on the infield?
I think it's sort of ironic that we're putting everything into the lap of Mayer. He's a guy that was a top pick, and I think ultimately he's going to be the guy that determines whether Breslow keeps his job or gets fired. We heard over the offseason that the reason they didn't make the trade with Arizona is they did not want to trade Marcelo Mayer. And now we're hearing that he's a guy that may platoon. So we have to figure out, where we're at. Unfortunately, I don't trust the ability of the upper, the management to determine and sort of evaluate their players correctly. So I think there's a very good chance that they screwed this up, that they didn't do what they were supposed to do. They don't have the right person in that situation. It's going to cost them. I hope that's wrong, but I don't know. So that's an important thing. Story was phenomenal last year. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He is a professional. Maybe he'll keep it going. And Nick, just to sort of your point, I think ultimately it's not so much a Cora thing. I think it's a front office thing. The idea of him platooning people, he's platooning guys because he has sort of valuable players. If we go back to 2018, JD Martinez played 150 games. Mookie Betts, 136 games. Jackie Brantley, 144 games. Benintendi, 148 games. Bogarts, 136 games. You had Devers and Nunez that played 121 and 127. If you give him professional players, like any manager in baseball, if you give them absolute pros, they are going to play every day. When you have guys that are incapable of doing what they're supposed to be doing on a regular basis, that's why you're going to platoon guys. And it'll be interesting to see what we get tomorrow. We have a lefty on the mound. Who is going to play second base?
John, John, you're last, right? Nick, on the infield.
Yeah. To Thayer's point, with Meyer and the platoon thing, I think tomorrow, honestly, I think we're going to see Meyer at second base. And maybe that's just because it's an opening day, and then after that he's gonna go back to that platoon thing. And Cora's comments the other day on air about who he's gonna be platooning with. If it's the 536 OPS, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa platooning at second base over 837 OPS, Monasterio, that I can't explain, and that's that's got to be coming from the top, but. Then again, you're paying IKF $6 million, so it is what it is there. But the infield, I mean, platooning is. I think it's just going to be Meyer. I don't see anybody else getting platooned. Substitutions later in games, 100%. With Cora talked about throwing in Yoshida for a catcher in late innings because we have Connor Wong back there, and then once Mickey Casper and even Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who has catching experience, never want to see that happen ever, but he's played catcher before, so there's an option. But again, and as Jim and Thayer and Nick, you guys all brought up, the Cora loves his versatility, and I think guys are all going to be getting into games, but it's where they're deployed. We're going to see Rafaela get subbed out in the 8th inning when there's a righty on the mound for Yoshida or for Duran if he's not in the lineup that day for whatever reason. Everybody's going to get in. It's kind of just when they are deployed, and Cora has to pull the right strings on that. And as far as the gamble goes on the infield defense, it obviously just comes down to health. If Story goes down, who the hell's going to play shortstop? If Meyer goes down, we have the Nick Sogard, we have the Nate Eaton, we have Andrew Monasterio, we have Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. We have spots to fill there, but if guys start dropping like flies, the whole the whole identity of this team is going to be thrown out the window. And then how good are these guys going to be that fill these gaps? I can't say that I have the utmost, what's the right word? Faith in Andrew Monasterio. I definitely don't have the faith in Isaiah Connor-Falefa. Nick Sogard, I'm a fan of. Nate Eaton, I kind of like. But, all the depth that this team has, as soon as one guy drops in the infield in the right spot, everything can crumble.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the Boston Red Sox. You shouldn't be dealing with a guy like Isaiah kind of falafel. I mean, seriously. You know what? If that's the case, then just let Mayer play. Let him struggle against lefties and try to figure it out. I mean, this is ridiculous to have guys like this on this team. I mean, the fourth richest baseball team in the world, and they're dealing with guys that should not even be on a major league roster. Just drives me nuts.
If I could throw in one more thing,
sure.
The first 18 games of the season, it looks like the Red Sox are only going to face 2 to 3 lefties in that entire time frame. We have Andrew Abbott that we're going to see tomorrow on the Reds, and then Houston has all righties that are going to be lined up against us. San Diego has all righties in their rotation. Brewers, maybe you see Kyle Harrison on a redemption game. The Cardinals have only Matt Liberatore as a lefty, and then the Twins only have right-handers in their rotation as well. So I think we're going to see a ton of Meyer, at least to start games in the beginning of the year.
All right, so finishing up, we're actually going to talk about the actual matchups and actually games, which we haven't been able to do since, October of last year. I know. So starting tomorrow, the official Red Sox season begins in Cincinnati. We have a 3-game series. Thursday is a 4:10 start. Saturday is a 4:10 start, and Sunday is the series finale at 1:40 in the afternoon. Your pitching matchups for this game tomorrow is going to be Garrett Crochet against Andrew Abbott. Game 2 on Saturday will be Sonny Gray against Brady Singer, and Game 3 on Sunday will be, as we mentioned, Connelly Early against is it Reloader? I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Freeloader.
It's a created player.
Yeah. Okay. So with that being said, Thayer, I'll start with you. What are your projections for this series? How do the Red Sox fare? How will they finish it up?
I'll say 2-3. I think tomorrow you see Crochet come out, and I think he'll get the job done. I think we'll get enough offense, and we'll win that one relatively comfortably. My guess is somewhere along the lines with Sonny Gray. I think that's where you'll probably see some offensive faltering for the Red Sox, or the Reds will come out, avenge themselves and go from there. And then the Early will win the third game. Go for it, John.
John?
Aaron Judge has a golden sombrero on opening day.
Loves the strikeout.
And yet they're still winning, 7-0?
So 2 out of 2 out of 3. You're picking 2.
I say 2 out of 3. Yep, with Game 2 probably being a loss.
John, what's your prediction for the series against the Cincinnati Reds?
I got a clean sweep. Garrett Crochet is going to be Garrett Crochet. He's going to get the strikeouts. He's going to get the innings in. And then especially for opening day, you're probably going to have if Crochet goes 7, you're going to have Whitlock in the 8th and Chapman in the 9th. Probably going to hold the Reds to 1, maybe 2 runs in that game. So offense, even be subpar, you should come away with a win in that. Game 2, Sonny Gray, Brady Singer. The Red Sox and Brady Singer's career, 31 for 100 off of him, only 22 strikeouts and 3 home runs. Duran's hit 300 off of him. Abreu's 2 for 5 off of him. So I'd expect the offense to actually show up pretty well in that game in case Sonny Gray doesn't have it like how the last couple starts for him outside of the last start in spring training. wasn't finding the zone too much. So I think the Red Sox in a scoring game come away out of that one. And then game 3, Connelly Early versus created player. Connelly Early is going to do what he's done in his limited time with the Red Sox. I think he's going to deal. I think he's going to continue to impress all of us. And bold take for game 3 in that series. I think Roman Anthony's going to have a multi-home run day.
Nick, what are your projections for the first series of the year?
That was very unique, creative player. I like that. And you said it with a straight face. That was good. Yeah. Right now you're winning the Emmy Award. No.
Appreciate that.
I feel bad, guys. And I feel bad for Terry Francona. And the reason I feel bad for him is he's going to get a broomstick. And I feel bad for him because best manager in Red Sox history. But I think the Red Sox are going to sweep the Cincinnati Reds as well. I think tomorrow, though, I don't know what really to expect on Garrett Crochet. He had a rough spring. I'm curious to see if he puts that behind him right away. I am. I hope this doesn't come down to a bullpen game, but I still think the Red Sox can prevail in it. I'm not saying it's going to be too much of a damage, but I don't think we're going to see like the pristine Garrett Crochet like we're accustomed to. I think he's going to have to figure out some adjustments to get him going and ramped up, but nothing to take away, John, from like a Cy Young or anything like that. Everybody has their ups and downs, but if he gives up 3 runs or something like that, that's, we're still winning the game. That's fine. I think the biggest surprise here to start the season here will be Sonny Gray. I think we're going to like what we see from Sonny Gray. And I think his start that we'll see on Saturday will be very promising and something that I'm hoping that he can build upon. And I hope that we can get some of that confidence and trust into a guy like him. For some standouts for the series, Marcelo Meyer. I'm going to put you on the spotlight, dude, because I think there he is. Let me get into my Marcelo act. Hold on. Because I think he's going to rake. I do. I think he's going to rake. I think he is. For other things, I want to watch Garrett Whitlock start the season. I wasn't too thrilled with obviously that last WBC thing. He shouldn't have been in the situation that he was, but I just hope that he's not overworked already to start a season. That really bothers me a little bit here because we all look at Whitlock as one of those guys that is kind of made of glass. If this team has to lose Garrett Whitlock for a significant amount of time, we are doomsday scenario here because I don't know who else is going to slot into his role. Maybe our new guy, Tommy Cayley, who we signed, can get ready. That's another nice depth piece that I like that the Red Sox did, but I'm not ready to put that baton yet to Justin Slayton. Oh yeah, if Whitlock goes down, Slayton, you just slide in. Weissert, I'd like to see a little bit on. He had a good first half, but then second half he just went down the drain.
Cora was milking him like a cow.
Oh, him and what's the other guy that we had that we don't get to? Bernardino.
Yeah,
Bernardino should file it. Thanks for interrupting me. It was really nice of you. I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks. Gong you. I just hope that we have an okay Garrett Whitlock heading into the season. That's the biggest thing to look at, and I don't want to see him get overworked because that's a very important piece in your bullpen. If he goes down, that's not good. So let's watch for that. And then I'm sure they're going to do something with catcher where probably Navarez goes 2 out of 3 of the starts. You'll probably see Wong maybe game 2. How long is the rope going to be with Connor Wong, guys? That's the one thing that I forgot to ask everybody here because I've just about had it. I'm done. I want to get rid of this. Oh, well, he's the Mookie Betts deal piece in the Dodger trade. I'm ready to just say goodbye. Go down to the local car wash and go wash my tires on my truck. Like, I'm done.
That's the Wong
Sorry to be-
attitude. That's the
Sorry
Wong
to be harsh, but sorry to be harsh, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying, dude, goodbye. It's an opening for a beer vendor at Fenway. Maybe he should reply with Aramark.
Well, all right, that's gonna do it. That's gonna do it for the. Before we sign off, I think the Red Sox have a really good shot at sweeping this series. Conservatively, 2 out of 3. I think they have a chance to win all 3. And you know what? Again, try to win as many games as you can in April, because as I always say, you can't win a title in April, but you could lose it. So you got to win the games that you can, because you never know when that tough opponent's going to be there, and you're going to struggle for, losing 5 out of 10 or something like that down the road. So these are winnable games. It's a fresh start. Everybody hopefully will be motivated. I look to see Abreu and Anthony break out a little bit. That would be great. And with that said, I'm going to call it for tonight. I'd like to thank everybody for being on, Nick, Thayer, and John, along with everybody that posted comments and listened along. We will be back with you tomorrow night to break down tomorrow's 4:10 start. We'll go over everything tomorrow night. Have a good night, everybody, and go Sox. 4:10 tomorrow.